This is the Seahawkers podcast, episode 444. I'm Brandon Schultz of the Military Seahawkers, and I am joined by my good buddy and Montana Seahawker, Adam Emmert.
Hey, man, I appreciate you making the time. I know this is your third go at breaking down this game here, and it'll be my first, but I do appreciate it, especially when it was an interesting game with a defensive optional kind of flavor to it.
An interesting game. Interesting is an interesting word to use because, yeah, when you lose 42-29, and the thing about this game, too, with the Seahawks and the Lions is that I never felt like the team was going to be completely out of it because every time they got knocked back, they were climbing back into it. But it was frustrating, the defense optional portion of it, especially with it being the Mike McDonald defense. And, this is what we expected from our team, that we'd be able to shut down people like, I don't know, Jared Goff, who then goes a perfect 18 for 18. So I'm having trouble with a lot of this game. I like the offense part of it. That was fun. But the defense part of it, and I know we had a lot of injuries, the parts of it that I struggle with being okay with.
Yeah, so I heard you on the post-game show talk about the 18 for 18. That seemed to really stick in your craw. And I do obviously think that that's no bueno. You don't want the quarterback to go perfect
Jared
on the
Goff.
day, no doubt about it. Whatever. I don't care if it's, Zach Wilson. Like, at the end of the day, they're professional quarterbacks. But really, people are acting like he went 36 for 36. Like he threw the ball 18 times. And I do think that part of the way that the Detroit Lions played offense, especially in this game, made it so that it was very easy for Jared Goff to go 18 for 18. And it does link back to some things I want to get to a little later in the pod. And, you talked about the defense being disappointing, and I think we can all agree on that. When you're missing half of your starters, or a little less than half your starters going into the game, more than half your starters halfway through the game, I don't know exactly how you expect it to look. I do find it interesting, though, that when you do lose some of the talent up front that was acquired, and look, I think this really shows how valuable Byron Murphy is. So no Leo, no Byron Murphy in there in the middle working together, and it allowed them to run straight down our throats. And then the defense looked exactly as it did under Pete Carroll. We killed Pete Carroll for these last couple years as a retooling the defensive side of the roster. They do a little bit better this last offseason. They finally strengthened up that defensive line. It looks better through the first few games. Then you lose those players, and even a whiz kid like Mike McDonald looks like he's out of his league in that game. And this is no shot at Mike in terms of the way that he called the game defensively. I think he did everything that he could, given the firepower that he had. But at the end of the day, it was a piss poor performance on the defensive side of the ball. And Mike said as much. It wasn't acceptable. And you're not going to go anywhere playing defense like that. No doubt about it. You mentioned the offense you're really happy with. I was mostly kind of happy with the offense. We can get to that again in a minute. But I really do think that the way that Ben Johnson called the game, with the way that he ran the football, and the styles of plays that he ran, made it a lot easier for Jared Goff to go 18 for 18.
Yeah, was this a Ben Johnson revenge game for not getting the coaching job in Seattle? Not that he really seemed to want it. The point that you're making, though, about the offense is a good one. They played very physical, especially up front. I mean, that's where this team got beat, right? Was their offensive line, even being down their top center, was able to dominate this defensive line. And I don't know if having Leo Williams or Byron Murphy makes that much difference in terms of the run game, because I kind of expect guys like Jaron Reed and Jonathan Hankins to be guys in the middle and shoot. Throw Draymond Jones's name out there too. I expect those three to be able to hold down the fort when they're playing, 40. They played almost 80% of the snaps. And so I feel like those guys should also be able to stop the run.
I hear you. Those are good players, and you expect them to be run pluggers, but I think you answered your own question a little bit in there. They played 80% of the snaps. I don't care how good of a defensive lineman you are. You have to have the depth behind them to rotate in, to keep them fresh, to be able to have a chance. And look, and again, going back to the 18-18, I know some people have kind of harped on the secondary a little bit with that. I've heard that criticism. We settled this debate a long time ago, a few seasons back. Does a great secondary make a great pass rush, or does a great pass rush make a great secondary? We all know it's a great pass rush, makes a great secondary. And they were unable to get really any pressure short of the one play that Goff spun around and then still happened to hit Geno with Woolen draped all over him. It was good coverage. And then the really exciting sack from Hall, that was really fun. He, goes around the edge, grabs him by one hand, and is able to just jerk him to the ground one-handed. That was impressive. That's grown man strength right there.
Yeah, we got to find out that in the rule book, you can horse collar a quarterback as long as he's standing within the pocket. It's just something that you don't see very often. And I don't know, I guess we saw quite a few penalties or non-penalties of things we don't see very often in this game.
That's true. I honestly didn't know that rule, and now I do. So that was fun. Another thing with the defense here, going into this game, being undermanned against a very good offense on the road. Look, they ended up getting 4 stops. And that would have been enough if the offense could have gotten out of its own way in the first and the fourth quarter. Really, when you break down this game, DK fumbles, they take it down. It's a 14-point swing or a 10-point swing, however you want to look at it. They were going to at least get a field goal there.
Yeah.
And then they were playing catch up the rest of the time. And then your entire starting defensive line's gone. So at the end of the day, that's the quick synopsis of it. But I think there's some deeper issues that we can look at, and especially on offense. I feel like Ryan Grubb is getting a bit of a pass on this game because there's we can start with the things that were great. There's some really great things that he's doing. And then there's some stuff where he's not learning, and it's getting concerning.
This, again, was one of those games where I find a hard time then giving out too much criticism because they were playing from behind the majority of this game. So unfortunately, that DK fumble put them behind. Now, I go back to blaming the defense again, because in all of the previous 3 games, we lauded the defense for being able to, when there was a critical mistake on offense, the defense was able to bow up and get a stop and limit the damage. That didn't happen in this game, and we get out of the gates and it's 14-0. And then at that point, it felt like you were going to have to kind of throw the ball around the yard to climb back in it. And I mean, that's what they ended up doing.
Look, let's start with the good stuff. I want to start with the good stuff because I want to give Grubb some praise in some areas, because there's some things that are really dynamic with this offense. Number one, he is getting the best out of Eugene Cyril Smith. Look, after that game, if there's anybody out there that doesn't think that this year, if you take all the quarterbacks the way that they are playing this year, he's a top 5 quarterback, there is no debate. It's over. That's where he's at right now. He's playing out of his freaking mind. When you look at the game that Geno played in comparison to Jared Goff, it's like Jared Goff had a nice game. Geno Smith had an unreal game. Having to play against an offensive line that's constantly asked to play to their weakness, and him making them look serviceable and then throwing absolute darts all over the field. Geno has been unfreaking believable in the drop back game. It's outstanding. It doesn't get much better than that. And then you look at the way that Grubb's route concepts are working and some of the creative play calling at times. It's really good. That drop back passing game and the way that he's using layers concepts and really featuring DK as a true number 1 is super impressive. And it's been very effective. And they did lean on that quite a bit Monday. But at the end of the day, you can't win football games being one-dimensional. And this offense is shockingly one-dimensional.
On one hand, the good part about it was that every time Geno dropped back, there were guys there and open to quickly get rid of the ball. So knowing that you're not going to have a whole lot of time, especially with Aiden Hutchinson in this game, who was pressuring Geno like crazy. Fortunately, it was Geno being able to dip and dodge and duck and get out of the way as soon as there was pressure to be able to make that adjustment and then find the open guy. So one really impressive thing, looking back to what we saw from Shane Waldron, where it didn't even seem like there was a guy who was going to be open, because the way that that he structured the plays, that they were just so long developing that there was no open guy to throw to. Yet in this system, in this offense, Geno, when he dropped back, there were guys and they were open. And so you could also see it on times where you had a 3rd and short or a 4th and short, and he finds ways to get guys open. The one play to Jackson Smith and Jigba where it was 4th and 3, JSN gets open. It was also an incredible throw by Geno and his arm angle to be able to get it around Aiden Hutchinson, who was also running out and running with the tackle or whoever the blocker was. It might have been a tight end, but a great play by both those guys. And then now it didn't end up working out, but I like seeing those short yardage calls that get guys open to where you can execute it and get first downs.
Look, and in the first half too, one of the things that I think they finally went away from, but was a little alarming to see at first, they were using a tight end solo on Aiden Hutchinson way too often. It wasn't even just like a chip and then get him to the tackle and just kind of help out there. They were asking, Farrell Brown or Barner to block him one-on-one. That is a losing strategy. I was glad to see him get off of that. But what you're talking about, the quick passing game and all that, you're right. Grubb has answers in the drop back passing game. That's exciting to see, because just as you pointed out, that was definitely not something Waldron would do. And then Waldron would refuse to run the football. So you got none of the good stuff. And, at least with Grubb here coming out of college, we can see that his passing game is strong. It does work in the league. Now, there's some fundamental problems with that. And maybe now is the time to get into it. And, kind of on the surface level, we can look at just run pass ratio, and the team regressed. The team has regressed in this. We were at a 76-24% pass run ratio.
Yeah.
You can't win football games sustainably doing that. And you don't have to believe me. Go back and listen to Coach Mike in his interview here, coming back from Detroit with Brock and Salk, and those exact words came out of his mouth. That's not sustainable. And I'm starting to hear the excuses that I heard out of Shane Waldron about, well, it was that style of game. We just couldn't get to our stuff. I will remind everybody again, you don't have to ask permission from the defense to hand off the football. And that's getting really frustrating. And then when you kind of get into it a little further, it gets a little further frustrating to me. Because Brandon, of all the quarters, what was the best quarter offensively?
Offensively, what was it, the third quarter?
It was. Yeah. Yeah, it was the third quarter. They scored 13. Should have been 14. We can go back to the 2-point conversion.
Shouldn't it?
Well, yes. That was a terrible freaking call. I know what he was thinking. I've heard the explanation. It's a terrible explanation. I hate the call. Never do that again. There's no reason to start chasing points there. None. I don't care. The analytics don't seem to take into account that it's much harder to score a 2-point than it is to kick an extra point. Like, they don't seem to, they're like, well, you score 2 here, and then if you don't, then you can just score 2 again. Well, now you're chasing points more. Like, what are we doing? Like, just stay on schedule here points wise and make it easier on yourself. And then when you do finally have to go for 2, then do that. That's one of the dumbest things I've seen Mike do to this point. Hate it with every fiber of my being. Like, I never want to see that again.
I didn't hate it in this game just based on the way that the Lions were moving the ball, the way I just felt like it needed a little extra something to shift the game back in our favor a little bit. Like, you go for 2, you get 2, and then I don't know, it just,
and then hooray, you have one more point.
You do, but also I just feel like maybe there's a mindset of trying to goad the Lions into maybe being slightly more aggressive than they need to be, just because I feel like they also have a little bit of that mentality too. So being very opponent specific, I didn't necessarily have a problem with it in this game.
I mean, that sounds like we're making a football decision based off the feels. We just want to get a little more momentum rather than math.
Yeah, I want to maybe get in the head of Jared Goff a little bit more and make him try and throw it in a tighter window and make him make that mistake, because that's generally how we've come away with wins in Detroit, is when we've pressured Goff into making a mistake.
For sure. And look, when you can't stop the run and he only has to throw the ball 18 times, you're not going to have very many times to get pressure. We barely were getting pressure. And so we're probably not going to bait him into a mistake. And then the second part of it is, you even heard the announcers in the game say something to the effect of, hey, that's Ben Johnson. When he figures out that he can run on you, he doesn't get bored with it. He just sticks with it. So I don't give a crap if he scored 2 or he scored 1 there. He was going to keep handing the rock to David Montgomery and jelly it right down our throats. And that's what he did. And that's one of the things that really frustrates me when I contrast these two offenses. Like, just in style of play and the way that things played out, Brandon, would you rather have the Seahawks offense style or the Detroit Lions style of football? Which one felt like, hey, we can maybe get a stop here, and which one felt like it was inevitable?
Well, that I like that style of offense. And when it doesn't look all that much difference in terms of volume and yards, because Walker has 80 yards on 12 carries. Gibbs has 80 yards almost on 14 carries. Montgomery, he only had 40 yards rushing, where he got a big portion of his yards actually was on that catch and run where he planted Witherspoon on the ground and then stopped down the field for 40 yards. So 80 for him. It's more physical football, and that's the way that Dan Campbell wants to play. That's the way that they end up playing. And yeah, I want to be that physical. We have that ability with Kenneth Walker, with Charbonnet. Even we saw a nice physical play, a nice physical block from Charbs on one of the runs. We saw him on the sidelines, put his shoulder down and run a dude over. So it's in there.
Yeah, and Sharps had a nice first down run late in the game, picks up 11. And I like Sharps fine. He's a good back, and I'm glad he's on our team. I love having him as a complimentary dude.
Well, it's like Montgomery and Gibbs. I mean, you like Montgomery because he's the more physical dude, but Gibbs, he can also be a little physical, but he is a little more finesse.
Sure. I hate the way that they use those. I mean, I love the way that they use those two. But I think Montgomery overall is the more talented back as a whole.
Oh, yeah.
I'd much rather have David Montgomery as my starter than Jahmyr Gibbs, whereas it's very clear that K9 is a much more talented running back than Zach Charbonnet. It just is what it is. I mean, just that flip that he did to pick up the first down was ungodly. That was amazing. I've never seen a play like that in my entire football life.
No, it's something that I don't think anybody has seen. And it shows the incredible athleticism that he has, one, to be able to work his way back to his feet. And then as he's grappling in almost like a wrestling style move, flips over the top of him and keeps going against the first down. I don't know if we need to talk about the fact that once his helmet hit the ground that it should have been down, but it was also awesome. And I'm glad they let it keep going.
I don't care what the rule says. Look, K9 was
the refs
electric.
Didn't either, which is fine with me.
It's interesting. You're like, well, just in volume, it doesn't seem any different. He used his backs throughout the game. I asked you about which quarter was the best quarter. His third quarter in terms of offense. Look, in the first half, they ran the ball a total of 6 times. 6. I don't give a crap if you're down 2 scores in the first half. There's an entire game to be played. You can run the football, take some more time off the clock, keep a hot offense off of the field, because clearly your defense isn't going to be there to stop them all day. But instead, we got one running play in the first quarter. This isn't being down in the middle of the third and being like, well, time to start throwing the football a bunch. Grubb abandoned it like right out of the gate. And then for whatever reason, finally found it in the third quarter. So 1 running attempt in the first quarter, 5 in the second quarter. They had 8 rushing attempts in the third quarter, and then 3. Count them, 3. And I'm even giving them credit for some of the Geno runs here as well.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, they ran the ball in the first, second, and fourth quarter 9 times. They ran the ball in the third quarter 8 times, their best quarter. They were right in the game when they started running the football. It is infuriating to watch an offense that takes their third best offensive player. We have a set of triplets. We have Geno Smith, DK Metcalf, and Kenneth Walker. And Ryan Grubb refuses to play the man more than 1 quarter a game. He absolutely refuses to this point. You know how many touches Kenneth Walker had in the fourth quarter, Brandon? Your third best player on offense?
3.
It's an easy guess.
Is it 0?
0.
In the fourth quarter?
0. In the fourth quarter. I went back and double checked because that is insane. It was all Charbonnet. Again,
you're right.
Fine player. Not mad about it in terms of him being a guy that you can have out there. But why are you neutering yourself by taking away the threat of Kenneth Walker? And not only that, you can't give me the, pass protection, Sharps is better than Kenny. How many times were they an empty in the fourth quarter? They probably ran empty more than they did under center, which I think when we really start to tie this together about the offense and how they can go from being pretty good to absolutely unstoppable, it comes to how your offense is structured. Running empty and running out of gun all the time ain't it. And we've got some stats to back that up here too.
Well, the stats that are very interesting in this game is that they set an NFL record of 38 first downs and a team record. And they also win time of possession at 34 minutes. See, this is the thing that doesn't add up until you start to take into account some of the things that you're talking about. I mean, turnovers obviously a part of it too. But, if you tell us going into this game that you have 38 first downs to Detroit's 21, you win time of possession 34, and you still lose by double digits, that doesn't really compute to me.
Okay, so part of that is that there's a couple times there the Lions scored quickly, whether that was off of the DK fumble or the JMO reception, which, again, people kind of killing the secondary on that. I mean, we were in a later part of the game. Mike could see that we weren't generating pressure with 4. It just wasn't happening. And on that particular play, it was, I think, Jenkins that was lined up over top of JMO, and he gets sent on the blitz. And so now you're short a dude in the secondary. JMO runs a long crosser. They still don't get home with the blitz. Now Witherspoon is high load by another guy they're bringing off the backside of the play. And there's no winning for Witherspoon there. He's in an impossible situation.
Where was Kayvon on that?
So,
because I think
maybe it was Kayvon that they sent on the blitz.
I thought it was one of the two. Kayvon was supposed to have the deep responsibility on that play, and that's I just don't remember on that play where he ended up.
Well, it was trips to the bottom side of the screen, and I think Kayvon got pulled with that while JMO ran across to the top side of the screen. Yeah. So, I mean, sometimes you just get got when you're having to play a little extra aggressive because, you're down as many of your very talented players as you are. I think the harder thing for me is that knowing that your defense is likely going to struggle going into the game and then seeing your defense struggle throughout the game, that offensively you're going to have to carry the load. And we tried to play it one-handed, and it really did hurt them at the end of the second quarter and the end of the fourth quarter. They're down 21-7. They get the ball with, what is it here? At 5:11 left in the second quarter.
Right.
And they go 8 plays, and I believe there was 1 run.
No runs.
0 runs. And end up having to punt. Like, that's a great spot to get a score there because they give the ball back with a minute. They get the ball back again with 20 seconds or whatever, and give Jason Myers a shot from Egypt to try to kick it through.
Yeah.
But you need to double up there knowing you're getting the ball back at the end of the second half. And with 5 minutes left in the second quarter, it's not like, well, we had to throw it. There was only $1.30 left in the quarter. No, you had 5 minutes and timeouts. Like, run the football a little bit, keep them honest. And that's something that I think Ryan, he's got to learn. He's got to learn.
The interesting part about that too was right before the 2-minute warning, I felt like they had such good momentum building. And after that, it was a short pass to Charbonnet, and they had the opportunity to get up to the line of scrimmage to run another play, and they just allowed it to go to the 2-minute warning. And I felt like just taking that break, and it didn't help, obviously, coming out of the 2-minute warning that Pharaoh Brown gets the holding call. And then now they're way behind the sticks at 2nd and 18, and then that drive is effectively killed. I would have liked to see them run a play ahead of the 2-minute warning just because they had that nice tempo going.
Yeah, I mean, but right before the 2-minute warning, well, I guess Geno got sacked a little bit earlier in that drive, but they do pick up the 3rd and 16 right before the 2-minute warning there.
That was the little flip
that
play.
Was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard it called cross and toss.
Yeah.
Like that's fun. I always thought it was a hook and ladder, but cross and toss, I'm into it. Again, that's some creativeness out of Ryan Grubb that, like, when I see those, I'm like, yeah, this is why I'm not like completely flustered with this dude. Like, that's creative. And that was cool.
That was cool.
Really enjoyed seeing that, but you can't stall out there. You can't abandon the run early down 2 scores. You got to stay on it. You can score there. And then to end the game in the 4th quarter, they go punt, turnover on downs, and a pick.
Yeah.
When you had a chance, especially after the safety, and you can get this game to a point to where it looks really interesting and you're in it.
What did you think of that offensive pass interference call on Tyler on that 4th and 3?
It's not often called. You could call it. I mean, it's not one of those where you're like, what are you thinking, referee? Like, not calling pass interference against the DB on DK in the end zone, where I think he committed a felony on DK on that play. That one I look at and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. That's ridiculous. 4th and 3, super disappointing. Usually isn't called. If you want to call it, I guess. It hurt my feelings.
Right.
I'll say that.
No, I'm just curious because I kind of felt the same way. You didn't need to call that there.
Didn't need to call that there. I think you could have been a lot tighter in this game if you fix what I believe is the fundamental flaw in this offense to this point of the season. We're a quarter of the way through. I think we have enough data points to start looking at some of this. But throughout the game, the Detroit Lions, I like their style of offense. It was unstoppable all day. It felt inevitable, just coming down your throat. They had 50 plays. They ran 33 plays from under center at a rate of 66%. And you saw what that does for Goff and their offensive line. They get playing downhill. Goff's able to run play action a little bit. He can get out on the boots. The defense has to take a beat and, play both the run and the pass every single play. It really is a dynamic way to play offense in the way that you have to play it in the league. And then I contrast that to Ryan Grubb's college style. And we ran 78 plays. Do you think we even got half of as many plays under center?
Oh, no.
No. We've got under center 12 times the entire game at a rate of 15%. That is soft football. It takes an offensive line who some of your weaker points in Bradford and Tomlinson, who are better run blockers than they are pass blockers. You give them the opportunity to at least make the defense honor the run scheme. And Geno's not running for his life back there, having to be a top quarterback just to keep him competitive. Get under center, start running the ball a little more. I'd love to see him commit to K9 quarter in, quarter out. Like this, play him for the 3rd quarter and then that's it.
Yeah, and you can't tell me that, we just wanted to work K9 back in coming off of injury. His oblique was fine. He backflipped over a dude and front flipped over a guy and then kept like trucking another dude. So he was fine.
He was totally fine. And I think if Grubb can make that transition, and look, some people will say that, well, the whole offense and the route schemes and everything, the timing all syncs up with being in gun. Okay. I mean, Ryan Grubb's a genius, right? Like, you can make an adjustment to make those things time up from playing underneath center and make it a little more difficult for the defense. Because right now, an offensive line that's not a great pass blocking offensive line, whether, all down the line except for Cross and maybe Williams, when you get in gun, and especially when you run out of empty, as they did time and time again, the defense just goes, oh, I don't have to worry about runs. Cool. You don't get sucked up a little bit. And let's make it easier on the receivers. Let's make it easier on the offensive line. Let's make it easier on Geno. Let's get our third best player involved quarter in, quarter out. And then maybe you don't get busted off the field 7 times. Maybe it's more like 4, like the Detroit Lions. I didn't feel it like watching it live as much as I did when I went back and rewatched it. Like, man, did they get under my skin.
I felt it watching it live because I kept thinking they're going to get Geno one of these times. And he's not going to be able to duck away and move every single time and not get caught from behind or get a big hit. And it was in the fourth quarter where he got hit pretty hard. And I was thinking, ooh, is this going to take him off the field? And fortunately, I think it was a penalty on the defense, so they didn't have to take him off the field, and he was okay enough to keep playing. But yeah, when you're putting your quarterback out there that many times behind a line that has that many questions, I was getting concerned.
And did you see the shot that Geno took on the DK fumble when Geno started running back to try to prevent the return? Oh, it was brutal. He got depleted. Yeah. And look, man, if you're going to drop Geno back 50 times a game, then get ready to be watching Sam Howell towards the end of the season. He will die back there.
That's what I was getting at without saying it so explicitly, but thank you for explicitly saying it.
I mean, it's just the long and short of it. And again, a quarter of the way-ish into the season, like, okay, I'm done with the excuses now. Like, I'm ready for what I was told all offseason. Oh, no, he'll get to the run. Or even Mike and him in the post. Well, yeah, no, we're going to get to it. Like, just been each game the way it's been. I mean, shoot, it might as well be Waldron up there. Oh, I just can't get to our stuff.
Well, there are good things that we're seeing. That would be the one area that they could use some improvement for sure. So we will see if they could do it coming up against the Giants.
For sure. And look, another thing to give Grubb and the offense some praise on, penalties. Way better on penalties in this game in terms of like pre-snap penalties and getting behind the sticks. Like they weren't constantly in, 3rd and 16 over and over and over again like they had been the last couple of weeks. I think that was an improvement. Was it perfect? No. But give them some credit there. I think there was some growth. And, honestly, Scott Huff and Grubb, they're getting almost serviceable play out of Stone Forsythe here. And I think that's something to be applauded as well. That's impressive.
Almost serviceable is probably the best way to describe it. Probably also the reason why they're bringing back Jason Peters, and he was signed to the practice squad this week.
That's terrifying news. I'm starting to give up the hope for my favorite Seahawk, Abe Lucas, to come back this year. It's getting late early on that one, and yeah, it's kind of a bummer.
Well, especially when it was this week when the guys who are PUP, who are actually eligible to begin practicing, and your 3 guys who you're kind of looking to see if they're going to come back. Cameron Young, Abe Lucas, Jarek Reed, Cam Young, the only guy who is expected to be back at practice this week.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, I guess of the 3 of them, he's the second one I really want back, I guess. So that's good. I don't know. Another interior guy.
Jarek Reed, he could have came in handy in this last game.
Yeah, especially with Julian Love going out. That was such a bummer. He was up to 3 solo tackles just early on in the game, and I needed him to cover 4.5.
You weren't counting those at all?
Yeah, that also hurt my feelings because it was looking easy. It's like, oh, they can't stop him up front. Safeties are going to get a ton of tackles. Great. here we go. Nope, taken off the board, and just sounds like a contusion. Yeah, isn't that what we were being told?
Yeah, fancy word for bruise. So
yeah. Hopefully nothing too serious.
Leonard Williams, some good news there that he and Boye Mafe were going to participate in Wednesday's walkthrough. So we are getting some news in terms of injuries from McDonald of guys who were being asked about actually participating in walkthroughs on Wednesday. So that maybe we found a way in as to a little bit of insight on whether or not guys are going to be back, because Chenna Nwosu sounds like he's going to be working through the walkthrough. Byron Murphy not, unfortunately. But, at least we got some good news for a few guys on defense.
No, hamstrings. Stupid hamstrings. Gosh, they're tricky.
Well, wasn't that the reason they were waiting for Jerome Baker? Was his a hamstring too? It was a soft tissue thing that they were waiting to see if he was going to be able to play. And we saw a pretty good game by Tyrese Knight, I thought.
Yeah, give him some credit. Dotson had a nice tackle late in the game as well.
Dotson got beat in the passing game, though, pretty consistently.
I know.
So it wasn't, and that was the weird thing. So with the defense, like Trey Brown, I think gave up a couple plays, which not huge. Woolen, I think you called out the one pass that I think he gave up all day. So it was a good day from Woolen overall. It was
he damn near batted that down too.
Yeah. Yes, he did. And so it was the safeties. It was Dotson. And I don't think Witherspoon gave up a ton either. So I think it was more it was everything that I was worried about with Jared Goff, them attacking the middle, and he was able to throw it straight and dump it off to the right. I haven't looked at Jared Goff's passing chart, but I bet it's like a lot of green right in the middle and a lot of green short right.
No, you're 100% right. And it went a lot like this. Get under center, play action, suck the linebackers up a little bit, run everybody deep except for a late dude over the middle. Bink, 18 for 18. Shoot. I mean, I could have probably gone 5 for 18. Like doing that.
Maybe. It didn't look real hard for him.
And I suck. I'm like Skylar Thompson bad. Maybe even
worse. I can
worse.
hit those passes out in the flat to the right. Yeah, sure.
Exactly. I could get, okay, let's be fair. Maybe 3 for 18, but for me, that's how easy it is. That's how easy you can make offense look when you play a style that's conducive to making the defense having to guess on every single play.
Well, we'll see if they can do it coming up against the New York Giants, our Seahawks coming back home. And I feel like on a national stage, we showed enough to where people are, I felt like we got a lot of questions about whether or not this team was a legit 3-0 or not a legit 3-0. It feels like it was pretty okay for 3-0, and we should be able to keep it going against the Giants.
Yeah, we kind of asked that question before the game, is this going to show us if we're legit or not? And we always like to go binary, right? And, have a yes or no. And I think the real answer is after that game, I feel like they will be legit. They're close, but no, they're not good enough to hang with the Lions right now. The proof is in the pudding. Now, get some of these dudes back, knowing that you got Leo going to be back. He's always going to get up for playing the Giants. Mafe, which I think the loss of Mafe in that game was maybe the biggest or the second biggest, just because, he's our main pressure dude. And if there's some way that Uchenna can come back too, and we can actually get our pass rush going, that'll be helpful against the likes of Daniel Jones, who, to be honest, against the Cowboys, looked decent.
When he looked decent, a big part of it was him throwing to their rookie wide receiver, Malik Neighbors. Sounds like he may not be back from concussion in time for Sunday. If they don't have Neighbors out there, I am curious where the Giants, what playmakers do they have?
It's fairly bare on the perimeter. I mean, we're talking about Slayton basically at that point.
Wan'Dale Robinson is okay out of the slot.
Yeah, Clinton likes him better than either of us. He also doesn't like Terry McLaurin enough, so there's that. Keep that in mind.
I mean, he's fine. I just feel like if you throw Spoon in the slot, like he's not going to have a problem with Wan'Dale Robinson.
No, not on the regular. I mean, maybe you give up one, maybe two, but nothing huge. Yeah, I like that matchup.
And so you got Devin Singletary coming out of the backfield. You got Daniel Jones coming out of the backfield, although I feel like they haven't used him a lot in the run game, just as much of this year as they have in past years.
Yeah, it does feel like it's scaled back a bit. I think they're trying to keep him a little bit healthier. Look, Singletary is a nice back. I mean, he's kind of in Charbonnnetville to me. Like, same kind of guy. You're like, yeah, you can roll with him, but it's not necessarily dynamic.
So with Daniel Jones going up against this defense, even if it is a depleted defense, one of the things that stood out to me was listening to, now I can't remember if it was Rayshon Jenkins or if it was Dotson. I think it must have been Jenkins because they were talking about, the types of weapons that they have in this Lions offense versus the Patriots. And they're like, well, we just had to worry about stopping 38 in the game against the Patriots.
Yeah, and didn't do it very well, but yeah.
No, but they had one guy. And so even if Neighbors is on the field, I mean, that's their one guy. And I guess if they're trying to run the ball with a mix of Daniel Jones and Devin Singletary, they might be able to get a little bit done. But this feels like it should be on that same level of the first 3 games of the season where I have some confidence that we're going to win this game.
Sure. And look, the Giants do have a decent amount of talent defensively. You start thinking about Thibodeau and Brian Burns and some of their, what is their linebacker's name? Okirike? I can never say it right.
Okirike,
yeah. Yeah, he's good. I like that. That dude can ball. They've got some dudes, but it ain't Lions dudes. And if we can score 29 against the Lions playing one-handed, I can't imagine what would happen if we take a run game that averaged 7 yards a game last game and, I don't know, use it the whole game and then let Geno pick them apart from there. I mean, it could be a game where, if the Giants get down even a score and a half, basically, right? 10 points. I think it's kind of over for them because you can't put the game on Daniel Jones's shoulders the way that you can Geno Smith.
The other guy you have to worry about on defense, Dexter Lawrence, there in the middle.
Yeah, Dexter Lawrence.
He's their leader in terms of pressure rate. He's also the leader in sacks. He's tied with Jason Pinnock. And they both have 3. So a couple guys to worry about up front. You mentioned Thibodeau. He's also probably their leader in missed tackles. No, he's not their leader in missed tackles, but he has a lot. He has 3. Okirike has 5.
Look, it's a team that's expected to finish with a top 5 draft pick. Nice get right game before you have to turn around and play the Niners. Be 4-1, keep that 1 game lead going into that Niners game. And I think we're in a good spot. And, a place where I think just getting a couple defensive starters back, I think Mike McDonald can really then run his scheme the way that he would like. And then an opportunity for Grubb to kind of experiment a little bit and maybe try to get this going in a more sustainable path.
With Jason Peters being back on the team, I'm curious what you think. What does the signal, other than maybe, I know you're a little bit triggered on the doom and gloom for the Abe Lucas side, but
yeah,
do you think that he is depth then behind Forsythe and Cross? Do you think he's being brought in to maybe be an improvement over Forsythe, or could we see him at guard?
All of the above. Your guess is as good as mine, man. I mean, just the first thought was, okay, so Abe's not being back in here in a week or 2. So they're looking at him as a depth piece. That was my first gut reaction. But honestly, as you go through the other scenarios, could he end up being out there and replacing Forsythe? Yeah, maybe. In terms of him, cutting in and playing guard, like it's possible. Is that necessarily an upgrade over any of those dudes at this point in his career? I don't think so.
I think naturally he would probably be, just the way that they're kind of but rotating between Haynes and Bradford on the right side. I feel like they're playing out the competition there. So it doesn't seem to me that you would throw Peters in while that competition's going on. And I guess Tomlinson, while he's been rough at times, like I think a 42-year-old Peters, you're probably going to have similar types of issues as you would with Tomlinson. But the left guard spot, he's played on every spot of the line except for center his entire career, now that he's 42 years old. So it's not unforeseeable to see him play really any of those spots.
That's true. I would imagine, though, it would be either right tackle or right guard, just because he's naturally played the right side of the line a heck of a lot more. And you say, well, they've got the competition going. The last few years anyways, right? They've got the competition going over there. You know, they're probably going to let that play out. Or maybe they've just decided that they've both lost. Maybe that's what they've decided. I don't know.
Bradford got majority of the snaps in the past game, 60%. In terms of what PFF saw, they graded out Bradford lower. Haynes, again, when you're talking about which guy you're going to play, if you're going to pass the ball more, it seems like Haynes has been the better pass blocker. And it makes more sense then to, if you're going to run 75, 80% pass plays, that maybe you do use the dude who's a little bit better at pass pro. But maybe they just want to see a little bit more out of Haynes. Maybe there's some nuance there that doesn't show up to the rest of us. But I'd like to see the line be more than serviceable.
I know Geno would too. I mean, not that it seems to matter to him.
And that's what
he's just.
And to cut you off, I mean, that's where this could go south in this game, because you mentioned those dudes up front. If Geno is again having to drop back, and I mean, it just makes turnovers more likely. It makes sacks more likely, which then makes you play behind the sticks more. You're not always going to be able to run those trick plays on third down to where you can pick up 16 yards to keep a drive going. And they have the dudes up front with Burns, with Lawrence, with Thibodeau, that it could make it a long day on Geno.
It could. But then again, he took every bit of talented defensive line in the Lions, and he danced around them and threw strikes all freaking day. Even the interception at the end, it's like, okay, you're down 2 scores. There's like, 2 minutes left, a minute left, or wherever we were at. Like, it's a little bit of YOLO there. Like, just get after it. You got to take chances. I'm not even mad. That was about as perfect of a game as you could play, short of doing barely anything and going 18 for 18.
It was a heck of a game by Geno. And that's one of the other impressive things that also has me confident going into these next few weeks. If he has this kind of command of the offense now through 4 games, if we're going to see better Geno, or if we just see consistent all through the year, awesome Geno, he's leading the league in passing yards to this point. I mean, if they keep this style of offense up, then Geno could end up being the league MVP. Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm about to say is no knock on Geno. Like, this isn't a Geno thing at all. But if you continue to live in, which they've been on the season now, 64% pass, 36% run. If you continue to live there for the rest of the season, all of your really nice pass concepts that are working now early, the league is going to have seen enough to where they're going to be shutting those down. The weather's going to get cold, and this thing is going to shrivel up and die. Like, you can't continue like this. Like, you're not going to end up with an MVP Geno.
And that's when we start hitting them with Ken Walker and running it down their throats in the cold weather. And
you can start now.
And then we win that way. We just win a different way.
You can start now, like, and be balanced and be unstoppable for the rest of the year. That would be amazing. Be amazing. God, Ken Walker is a generational talent at running back, and he's on a rookie deal. Like, we always whine about teams wasting quarterbacks on rookie deals. Like, isn't wasting an amazing talent at running back on a rookie deal every bit as bad?
Yeah, we need more K9, please.
Good God, for the love, just do it. Do it.
Maybe we didn't talk enough K9 in the recap, because each one of his touchdown runs, we got a little bit different flavor. We got the one late where, he banged it right up in the middle. We got the one where he was where Cross got blocked into him and he was able to bounce it out and around the outside. And then we got the other one where, what did he hit? Like 20 miles an hour as he was weaving through the defense with showing off his vision and finding the corner of the end zone. We got 3 amazing running plays for touchdowns.
Amazing running plays. Look, and the other part of this is talking about the under center stuff. We scored 3 of our 4 touchdowns under center.
Yeah.
And I even gave him credit for being under center when they snuck it with Geno. Like that's how piss poor it was.
I hope that they run their quarterback sneaks from under center.
Well, you would think.
They did have the one out of shotgun. When was that? Toward the end of the first half, right? That was a fun play where they just acted like it was going to be a shotgun play, and then everybody just started running forward toward the sidelines. Another nice play by Grubb.
Yeah, I was going to say, here in the bucket of credit for Grubb, like that was unexpected. We don't see that often. And it timed out just right to where they're at least able to give Myers a almost fighting chance for the field goal, which is about all you're asking for there. And yeah, I like the play call. That was creative. That was really cool.
Yeah, it was fun. And yeah, it worked enough time off the clock. And yeah, they weren't expecting it.
They weren't expecting it. And yeah, Grubb's got some of that in his bag. He does know how to hit the, I don't know, out of pace, not normal, just something unexpected when you least expect it. He does have that knack very, very well down. I am impressed by that.
Something unexpected when you least expect it. I like that.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't find the right words to describe it, man. I was struggling all over that sentence, but give him credit for it. Like for reals. Like I bang on him for some things. I want to give him credit for some things too. And I'm really hopeful that, Mike sits down. I think Mike's pissed. I think he's annoyed. I think he's sick and tired of this. I mean, just the way that he talks about it, like I have more faith that it's going to change than it doesn't.
We just want more K9. That's it. That's all we're asking.
If you give a little more K9, I think with this level of Geno, I really do think this is a 35-point per game offense. And then whether or not you're struggling on defense doesn't much matter. And it's a sustainable style. You can ride that to the Super Bowl. Division title, let's go.
I liked where you're at before. Super Bowl, let's go.
Well, you got to do the division title first, and then you go to the Super Bowl. You're right. I just said it in reverse order. I want them both.
Let's get to the second half of the show.
All right.
So we talked about Ben Johnson. I kind of joked about the fact that there was a revenge game potential there. I probably should have mentioned Mike Kafka. Like that could actually be revenge game potential because he came in and interviewed and now he's the offensive coordinator. Well, he was the offensive coordinator for the Giants. He supposedly, I don't know, got some kind of upgrade to where we couldn't use him as our offensive coordinator, but we still talk to him as a potential head coaching candidate.
Or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Dable's still in charge or whatever. Yeah. Fear the Kafka, I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
I just felt like should recognize there was another coach that was brought in that didn't get the job and maybe has something for us in game planning, but not actually calling plays.
Hey, best of luck for that guy because I am very interested to see what a Coach Mike team looks like bouncing back after a loss. That was one of the things from the Pete Carroll era that we saw a lot, right?
Yeah.
After a loss, they were usually pretty damn good. They responded. And I expect nothing less from a Coach Mike team. He does not seem like a dude you want to disappoint. And he wasn't mad, but he was very disappointed with y'all, like in terms of the defense.
Well, and there's the way that he reacts in the press conference versus I kind of wonder what his reaction is then within the locker room. And then no matter what his reaction is, it's how the players end up responding to that. And can we bounce back? Can we bounce back? Fortunately, the opponent it feels like a team you should be able to bounce back against.
It all lines up nicely that way. And I mean, you even saw the team bounce back within the game. Like they kept fighting back, as you kind of alluded to earlier in the pod, and kind of, getting it, for a second within one score. And you're thinking, just one stop and we can get there. And then the defense would get the stop and then the offense would peter out. And it's close. It doesn't feel like it's a long ways away. And again, a team that this should be a get-right game.
If you're going to look on the bright side after a loss, it's the fact that our Seahawks still in first place in the NFC West.
Oh, for sure. And okay, the Niners played a good game against a bad team and looked okay. All right, fine.
It looked okay. Did you see Brock Purdy in that game?
Look, I'm not going to bang on Brock Purdy. This entire season, Brock Purdy has taken his game to another level. The Purdy Turdies have been cleaned up, and he really has been carrying that offense, especially with Ayuk taking a big dump on the team.
Right.
And, CNC apparently having the bilateral Achilles stuff, so all the Achilles are hurting. Debo banged up, Kittle banged up. Purdy's been good. I give him credit.
It was fun watching the Cardinals get stomped by our number one quarterback coming out of the 2024 draft.
Yeah, man. Look, I know that I'm doing well with my pick when you agree with me. When we talked about Jaden Daniels coming out, and man, he has looked sensational.
Williams looked good enough, at least, to get the win over the Rams. I was happy about that.
Yeah, thank you, Waldy, for that. I'm sure the Bears fans are excited. It still seemed like it was maybe a roughish day for them overall offensively. And, at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to get better for them because they still have Shane Waldron.
Yeah. Well, I don't care much about the Bears, but I did care enough about them this past week for them to get the win. So very happy about that. Keep the Rams toward the bottom of the division. Keep the Cardinals at the bottom of the division where they belong. And all can be right. We can fight it out with the Niners and see who comes out on top between the two of us.
No, that sounds perfect. So Rams are 1-3 now. Is that correct?
That sounds correct. Yeah, I think they got their one win over the Niners.
Okay, so if we can get them to 6 losses before the halfway mark of the season, like it's over for them, right? They're gone. We don't have to worry about them. Ding dong, the Rams are dead.
Look, our Seahawks still need to beat the Rams like at least once.
Oh, yeah.
Or I'm going to be mad.
Look, at the end of the day, I didn't say that we couldn't be one of the teams to hand them one of those losses. Like, we can do that.
No, I have this built up frustration. Like, if we're going to get Pete Carroll, like I was ready to after the last couple Rams losses, like, yeah, we need this needs to happen. We need to make the switch. We need to win.
Absolutely. I want to see those guys go down by our hands so badly. It kind of hurts. Like, I'm so tired of that team.
We are not tired of our team of executive producers and those of you who went to getintheflock.com. Want to thank our executive producers, DCH, Brian Shaw, Ryan Peterson, our YouTube Live EP, and JC Schilling in the 313th, and of course, Brian Lowry.
Absolutely. All scholars. They're amazing people, and each and every week, it's hard to come up with new words to, really express the level of gratitude that we have for him, no doubt.
Brian Shaw coming back in via Zelle, $112 and a Go Hawks.
Hey, Go Hawks, man. Appreciate it more than you know. That's awesome.
We also got Jason Bonner coming in via Venmo at Hawkra. Jason said he was due for his annual donation, and he came in with $36. $3 a month. Wait, is that right? No. $6 a month for the year. Wait. What's 36 divided by 12?
6?
Is it okay? $6 a month for the entire year.
No, 3.
No, 3.
It's 3.
It is 3. There we go.
It is 3.
I think it's.
Let's tell their Beto, man.
I think it's $6 a month for half the year. I think maybe that's what he was doing. Right. He was saying that he didn't want to do 5, so he did 6. Unless I'm thinking of somebody else, but I was pretty sure it was Jason.
Yep. Yeah, it's his fault. It's not that we suck at math. That's right.
Tate Sessler in at $3 a month. Welcome to the flock to Tate.
Hell yeah, Tate. Appreciate it, especially following a loss, man. That shows just what kind of little flocker you are, which is the best kind.
Want to get in the flock? You can go to getintheflock.com. You can get ad-free shows, all of them right there. And, support the show. Get in our Discord. $3 a month gets you into our Discord group. And, yeah, if you want to join at the $12 level, that gets you into our Facebook Ring of Honor. And we've got our executive producer, Brian Lowry, sent us an email, Adam.
Hey, all right. What's Brian got?
Well, we just, from time to time, we get our EP notes. Brian sent it in, and he said, just wanted to say, love your guys' collaboration. Your new shows are great, but I'm here for the original. It's like me and my friends riffing, except you put in more effort to break down games and or the league and or our competition that I haven't had time to do. You guys are awesome. Keep up the good work. Love it. And so many more will as you gain traction. Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, man. I appreciate that a ton, Brian. And yeah, that's kind of what we always wanted to do, right, Brandon? Just have a show that felt like you're kind of sitting around the campfire, just shooting the catfish. And, with a little sprinkling of that kid from the NFL commercials that knows every stat from everything ever.
Do we know who's the kid, though, in our show?
Oh, nobody. A sprinkling of the kid. So we just take a nugget now and then and throw it in.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's good.
No, there's no kid in the show. We're all old people.
I thought maybe we were, adding a new character into the show and like you had some kid that you were going to reveal to me in this second half of the show.
Well, not this week. Thanks for spoiling the surprise. But really, we could probably say that Evie's probably the kid that has all the knowledge, right? The Pick'em League Overlord.
Yes, she does. And she comes in this week with an email saying, Dear Underlings, I know I didn't speak to you last week. Your overlord was away with school. However, do not think I am not watching. Last week, you all behaved. Maybe a lack of contact. Thought you could get away with something. Or even a free pass, as I heard mentioned. Don't make me laugh. Free pass? Nothing in life is free, and you are not free from my watchful eye. 4 of you sought to test me this week and picked the Lions. Your Hawkra is bad. Sky's the limit. Van Isle Hawk fan, Jared Tim, and Deep Ball's better than all. Hang your heads in shame.
Shame.
I have instructed my chief underling to change your picks to the Seahawks and hope you learn a lesson. Well done to Pete, has left the building, who won this week with 12 and got the tiebreaker closest. And Boys Blitz Brigade, who is at the top of the overall table with 43 picks correct. Dad is 3 picks back on 40. I've given up keeping track of who has let him down and who he hates this week. Although he had a special moment of vitriol aimed for the Donkeys as they won when he felt they shouldn't. I am very much enjoying the whole show dedicated to Pick'em League. It's good fun. Next time I write, I will update you on the Brandon versus Adam mini league and its standings. Anyway, happy picking this week. And remember, I am watching. Go Hawks. Love Evie.
Absolutely. You cannot slip one past Evie. Nice try, though. Bronco Jared's going to continue to do it because he's stubborn. But yeah, I'm glad that she's cracking down on that nonsense. And yeah, staying on the Hawker for those 4.
Including Jared. He'll have to live with that stain.
I mean, he's kind of been doing it his whole life, so.
Well, speaking of the Pick'em League, Adam, Thursday night football. This is usually where we offer up our picks for Thursday night, and it is the Buccaneers at the Atlanta Falcons. 64% going with the Bucs, 36% with Atlanta.
64% is right. Tampa all the way here. Tampa is the far superior team. Yeah.
Falcons, they squeaked one out, though, against the Saints this past week.
Hooray.
They're at home. It's a short week. I don't know. It's not risk pick territory. I'm going with the Bucs.
Yeah.
I was trying to say that just to try and lure you back to Atlanta, but I don't think I can do that with the Falcons.
No, I hate that team.
I know you hate that team.
Yeah, and not only that, but I mentioned Geno being a top 5 quarterback right now if you're looking at the way the players are playing right now. I'm not saying overall for doing an off-season list. I'm saying how they're playing so far this season. Mm-hmm. How many of those dudes are the recycled quarterback? I mean, it's got to be Geno, Sam Darnold, Baker.
All 3 of those guys playing at a high level. It's been really impressive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, shoot, Gardner is. I mean, he's at least been fun for the Raiders.
Not fun for Devontae Adams. He wants out. But
no.
Yeah.
But Derek Carr down in New Orleans, I think he's put together some good games. It does feel like the year of the cast aside quarterback.
I have a theory on this. I thought about this last night. I may have been a little stoned while thinking about it, so bear with me. But idea being that I think this might show that the league is completely wrong with the way that they treat and develop young quarterbacks. Like right now, like a lot of these guys got 2 years, maybe 3 in their first stop. Boom, get the guy out of here. He's a bum. Whereas in the past, guys would get 4 or 5 years to stick around and develop and really flourish. I think as an impatient fan base, as an impatient league, and impatient coaches, I think we're giving up on dudes way too fast. And we're seeing what a little bit of time and experience is doing for a number of these players, and they're playing lights out.
Yeah, I don't know how you get around that, though, for the players who come out of the draft and they have those expectations on them, because you look at a team like the Patriots and Drake May being drafted relatively early, and Patriots fans seeing not a whole lot out of the offense. They're 1-3, and they're thinking, well, why can't we just see the young guy? I want to see Drake. I want to see what Drake can do. Why are we starting Jacoby when we're not getting any wins out of the deal by starting Jacoby right now? Like, what's the deal?
I'll tell you exactly what the deal is, little children. Like, if you're the head coach, that's how you have to speak to the fans in this way. Like, all right, children, like, idea being the team's not very good, so let's not put the rookie out there and have him get beat up and have his confidence beat down like we've seen a number of the first-round draft picks over the last 5 years. Secondly, if we lose a bunch of games this year, we get an amazing draft pick to help bolster the team to be better around the future talented quarterback. We have seen that probably the best team in the league in terms of keeping a continuity at quarterback from great to at least good at this point has been the Packers. And what do? They get a guy and they sit him for a couple years. Just sit him for a couple years. Let him learn. Have some patience. Like, not everything has to be now, me. Like, I don't care if you want to see him. Like, we're going to see him in practice, and that's it until he's ready. And not only that, but more importantly, the team around him is ready. Let the veteran go out there and get his brains knocked in. Like, what? I don't understand why this is so hard for some people to wait for.
So if a lot of these guys need more time to develop, how much longer before Daniel Jones is really good?
Well, it doesn't always work out. I think we're starting to enter that territory with Trevor Lawrence too, right? I mean, you can't blame everything on the organization and the coaching. There comes a time when you start looking at the guy and being like, oh, you can't even hit the things that are there. Like, he's airmailing stuff and things like that. So, yeah, you're 4 year 5, you're showing nothing. Maybe it's time to move on. I'm not saying it's going to be sit him 2 years and you're guaranteed success with the QB, but I mean, shoot, we're seeing about a 30% success rate for first round quarterbacks right now here in the last 5, 6, 7 years. It's got to be better than that. At least get it to 50-50.
Maybe we'll start to see guys not taken quite so early. You look back to that 2021 draft class and all the quarterbacks that were taken Trey Lance at number 3 overall. How silly does that seem right now? Even Mac Jones
seems silly at the time too, by the way. Seems silly back then. I remember being very clear about that. Yeah.
No, as Zach Wilson, you kind of understood it just being a quarterback needy team, and he had some crazy throws that he put out, that he put on tape, and I think he had some of us fooled. Well, he had you fooled. I mean, I didn't
absolutely.
have an opinion
I was dead wrong. Also, too, I think that's a dude you sit for 2 years and all of a sudden it looks a little better. Maybe it's not perfect. Maybe it's not like he's a franchise guy, but probably better than the dumpster fire that he was.
Well, and that's crazy, too, when you get guys like Malik Willis into well-coached teams and, run things that they can handle, and things end up looking a little better that way, too.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And he's had a few years to get acclimated to the league and try to, level up to the competition from Liberty to the NFL.
Well, moving on to our mailbag, Adam. If you want to be a part of the mailbag, you can go to SeahawkersPodcast.com, click the contact link, like our good buddy John the Bar Davison says, "Hi, fellas. Well, our undefeated season came to an end, but at least it stops all the hype coming our way if we had gone 4-0. Or maybe there wouldn't have been because it's Seattle and they don't care. I think we could see something coming, though, when we lost the entire D-line and Aiden Hutchinson stepped on the field, as he's a monster. I didn't watch it live, as it didn't kick off till 2 a.m. over here, but got up Tuesday morning and watched the whole game, and my main point this week was, well, it wasn't bad. I know we never got in front, but we never stopped trying to get back into the game. I thought it was a decent performance, and all parts of the team played well at some points of the game, whilst admitting they didn't keep it up for 60 minutes. The O-line looked half decent, and you're not going to come up against a monster line like Hutchinson every week. K9 came back and looked the part, and while we won't win every game, we should all be optimistic, and it's going to be a positive season and a learning curve for the team and the coach. We are still top of the division, and so are Washington, as Barry the WC has asked me to tell you. He can't email as he has constant nosebleeds from being up so high. So all is well in County Durham in Northeast England, and go Hawks from the Bard. P.S. How dare you invite people to partake in my personal weekly column, EGAT.
You're right. We screwed that up. I'm very sorry, John. But hey, quick congratulations to Barry, man. It's exciting I'm sure, for him to have Dan Snyder gone, that stink is gone, and then having somebody like Jaden Daniels who's just electric in really everything on the college tape popping off now. It's awesome to see. Like, congratulations to them. And really, at the end of the day, I absolutely share John's optimism overall for the team going forward. It's not like they got just, slobber knocked on Monday night. Like, they were in that. They're not quite there, but you can see a path to how they're going to get there.
All the parts are there, and even on defense, I think when we're at full strength, the parts are there too. I do get concerned, again, going into this week, a little bit with Daniel Jones, because based on what we saw from Goff, like, Daniel Jones can do those things. Like, he can throw straight ahead in between the hashes, and he can dump it off to the right. So they don't have the running game that the Lions do, so that part's fortunate. And that's a big reason why I'm a little bit less scared. But Daniel Jones, really good at throwing straight between the numbers.
Look, you get me Leo and Mafe back on the defensive line, and I'm not afraid anymore. I don't think it's going to be an 11-sack tee-off kind of day, but, I mean, we go for 5 or so, right? That'd be fun.
Split the difference, somewhere in the 7-8 neighborhood. Be okay with that.
Yeah.
Well, my invitation to email in did get to Martin, who says, "G'day, Brandon and Adam. Purely just emailed in to see what sort of voice Brandon would do whilst reading out my email, as he does for John. Go Hawks. Hopefully we're 4-0 when you're reading this out, but with our injuries on the D-line, I'm hoping the new sheriff in town comes out." Martin, do we need to get into this? We haven't really talked about the story of how the voice of John came to be on the show.
No,
or at least it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Look, I think, Martin, like, you're going to have to email in, like, at least for half a season before you get a voice, right? Because, I mean, that takes a lot of time. And I understand, like, the British accent, he seems to have it, Americanized down, right? Like, whatever. But in terms of having to come up with an Aussie accent, like, that gets tough when you're having to interchange between that and a British one, just because there's some overlap, but then some distinct differences. That would confuse me, I think. But maybe you're more talented than me.
I think I could do the Aussie accent pretty well, just because I use Aussie Siri as my navigation assistant.
Oh, there you go. What if we used Aussie Siri to read Martin's emails?
See, that's kind of how we got it with John, is that I started using robot British voice for John's emails, and John got really pissed that I would use an AI robot to read his emails. And so then I started making the voice myself. I could see how it could get problematic, though, if I start doing stereotypical voiceovers for every person in all the different countries around the world.
Oh yeah, man. We could end up in Cancelville even quicker than I'll put us there. So yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of why it ended up being unique to John, just because of how I was playing around at that one particular time. Yeah. But I do appreciate Martin giving it a try.
Heck yeah. Yeah, you never hurts to ask.
On to do better and better at life.
All right, man. My do better this week is for something that when I saw these companies start popping up years and years ago, I was like, oop, never. I will never participate in that. Nothing good can come of that. I don't care what they say. No, thank you. That seems to be something a little scary. And that company is 23andMe. I don't know if you're aware of this, Brandon, but 23andMe, you know, one of those companies where you take your DNA, you swab it, and you send it to people you don't know. You give them the entire, you know, your entire genetic makeup to strangers that are just going to keep it secret for you and definitely not share it with anybody else. You know, not like the highest bidder or maybe even the government, like anything like that. Like you don't have to worry about that. You just send it in and then you get to find out that, you know, within a 27% margin of error, you might be a 10th Cherokee or some nonsense, right? Like never bought into it, never was going to do it. And people would make fun of me. Oh, you're just paranoid. You're just paranoid. What are you talking about?
Did you do it? Did Brittany finally talk you into it?
Hell no.
Oh.
And I'm so glad about that decision. 23andMe, apparently in the last year, has had to fire all of their board members. They're just tanking. They're about ready to get kicked off the stock exchange because their stock is getting so low. And it sounds as if they're about to close their doors. And to help recoup some of their losses, Brandon, they have one very valuable bit of data that they can share to the highest bidder. And that's all the people that submitted their DNA to 23 and not very secure me. This is terrible, man. I feel terrible for the people that submitted that stuff to them because literally it's going to be left to the highest bidder. Good luck. Hope it's not a bad actor. Hope it's not something that can be used against you at some point in your life. That's terrible, man. It's going to be an awful breach of privacy. And to 23andMe for running what eventually has turned into a scam. Do better.
I feel like you were on this 23andMe bit a while back. Like, you know, we've been doing the show for going on 11 years now. And so I feel like when it came out, you had a similar rant against this idea.
Yes. Because of this. And here we are. Yeah.
Adam, sayer of sooth once again.
Yeah. Slippery slope stuff, people.
My do better from this past week is for the refs from the Lions game. And not for the way that you might think. You know, there were plenty of bad calls to choose from, but there was one. Perhaps the dumbest one of the night was flagging Jameson Williams for giving his tribute to Calvin Johnson by dunking over the goalposts. I know it's a rule in the rule book. You can't dunk over the goalposts. But on a night where Calvin Johnson goes into the Lions Ring of Honor, like we should have been able to beat them. They could have had their celebration. They could have had that one play and that one celebration where Williams dunks over the goalposts. The refs let that slide. Nobody says anything. You know, just like Ken Walker being down with his helmet, you let that go because it was awesome. So be fair. Let the dunk go over the goalpost. Let it slide because it's an awesome tribute. Excessive celebration is a judgment call anyway. NFL refs do better.
Oh, absolutely. I didn't realize that it was the same night that Calvin went into the Ring of Honor. And that makes a lot of sense why JMO would have done that. And why is this? How is that excessive celebration? Like, how is that so offensive? Like, is that starting fights when you're dunking over the goalpost? Or is this just no fun league stuff?
Well, wasn't there that one time where like Jimmy Graham did it and then he bent the goalpost a little? One, you need to build stronger goalposts. Like you can't have a dude hang on it and bend it. But at the same time, they've pretty much taken that celebration out by penalizing for it. Just don't do it on, have awareness of what night it is and why a guy would be celebrating in that way.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. It's a stupid rule to start with. Stupid enforcement of the rule. I'm 100% with you.
On to Better at Life.
All right, my Better at Life than Skip Bayless. This is not political, so don't get it twisted, people. Okay? Don't get it twisted. But I don't know how many folks watched the vice presidential debate the other night. And I don't care who you like. I don't care if you're into the one dude or the other dude, or you thought who won or the other guy won, any of that stuff. I don't care. That's not the point of what I'm saying here. What I am saying is that debate was a joy to watch in comparison to the debates that I've been subjected to for the last 8 to 12 years. Those are the debates that I used to remember as a young man and as a child, where two grown men went out there, discussed the issues, and were cordial with one another. Oh, my stars, they even agreed on a few things. Can't have that. And that was something that I watch and listen to and go, well, holy crap. Maybe we can work through some of these differences when we get the right people, actually guiding the discussion. And I think their example of going up there on stage and being true gentlemen and good debaters, I think should be applauded, and something that is sorely missed from our political discourse. So do J.D. Vance and Tim Walz better at life than Skip Bayless.
All right, hear me out on something. What if we just get rid of president and we only have vice president? Would that fix all politics? Change the title and do it that way.
I think there's certainly election cycles that could help the matter for sure. The other thing, I almost made this my do better because I don't know how many media articles I saw written about, well, they were cordial and blah, 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 but it was terrible TV. It was so boring. And it's this isn't entertainment, people. This is about how our country's going to be run. If you want excitement, watch football like I do. Put all that irrational crap into football like I do.
Or watch those political shows where they yell at each other all the time.
Exactly. Yeah, do that. No, we don't need fireworks at a debate. We need substance. Thank you.
Well, I'm back on the Seahawks track with my Better at Life, and it is going to Jason Peters getting back into the NFL, the oldest active player. He takes that away from Aaron Rodgers, who had been to start the season. And Adam, he is on track. Jason Peters is to be then the oldest tackle to play in the NFL. Andrew Whitworth was considered to be the oldest tackle, and definitely the oldest in the modern era when he retired at 41. So Jason Peters coming back and competing at an incredibly difficult spot. And when you can do something that nobody in NFL history has done, you are better at life than Skip Bayless.
Heck yeah, man. That is impressive. I mean, I'm 45, so not too much older. And no, there is no part of me that thinks that at 42, even if I had been an athlete, I'm just a regular guy who tries hard, definitely not an athlete. There's no way my body could keep up with the 20-year-old people that are a different species from another planet that play this football thing. No, I don't know how he does it. It's amazing.
You have to want to do it really bad, I think, at 42.
Yeah. Especially with all the money he made, right?
Well, yeah. And I mean, it's incredible that I think about how I feel. And I know for an athlete in your 40s, it's probably not quite as bad, but it's not the same kind of feeling that you had when you're 20.
Yeah. It might be worse as an athlete because you beat up your body so bad earlier on. So
that's true.
Yeah. No, and it's funny that you said older than Aaron Rodgers, right? In watching Aaron Rodgers this last week, I found the coverage of that game to be hilarious too. They were playing in the remnants of a hurricane, and everybody is just destroying Aaron Rodgers and Bo Nix for only throwing for 60 and 80 yards apiece or whatever it was. And what are we doing? Is there no context?
Yeah. What are those field goal kickers doing missing all those field goals? It's supposed to be the year of the kicker.
Exactly. Jeez Louise.
No, it's because they're playing in a torrential downpour.
Yeah. Sometimes, man, I don't know. Some of the storylines just are amazing.
Well, hopefully everyone is doing well who has been in the path of the hurricane. I know it's been some devastating in terms of pictures and stories and that sort of thing. So definitely thinking about everybody who is out there and in the path and having to deal with everything that comes along with all that.
Yeah, super gnarly. Yeah, big old hurricane. No doubt about it.
That was a lot of water, but, we're familiar. Maybe we can get out of our game without a whole lot of water. I haven't looked at the weather report.
No, I haven't either. But my guess is because I've been looking at our weather report, which is usually about 3 days behind the Seattle weather report, since it all kind of jets that way. 2 nice weeks for us here. So it's going to be a beautiful day in Seattle. That's my unofficial meteorological. How do you say that word? Weatherman report. There it is.
And I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks. Not meteorological.
Meteorological.
Meteorological? How do you say it, Brittany?
Meteorological.
Meteorological?
Meteorological.
That doesn't sound right either.